The Public Servants Association, together with affiliated public sector unions, yesterday took to the streets to place pressure on government over wage increases. Now, thousands of civil servants demonstrated demanding better pay. Unions are demanding a 10% wage increase in the baseline, while the government insists it cannot exceed the offer of 3% plus additional benefits. Now, employees at the Department of Transport and Home Affairs, as well as immigration officials at border posts, took part in yesterday's strike. And there were, of course, some others as well, as was reported. But for an update on what transpired yesterday and possibly a way forward, we are joined via Zoom by the president of DENOSA and COSATU public sector convener, Simon Hlungwane. We also have Claude Naicker, who is the Public Servants Association spokesperson, and Deputy General Secretary at FEDUSA, Ashley Benjamin. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Welcome to all of you. Appreciate you speaking to us here on Morning Live. Let me start with you, Simon. You know, all eyes were obviously on the latest demonstrations yesterday. But can we just get some clarity as to what exactly that was? Was it a stay away? Was it a strike? Was it a picket? What exactly? How do you characterize what was taking place yesterday?
Well, good morning, and thank you for having us. Well, yesterday was a national day of action, which characterized many different activities. However, the most being the national march that we took to the National Treasury and many other marches in different provinces except for the Western Cape. So that is what was yesterday, but it was a show of solidarity, a show of mass action, and a warning sign to government that we want them to come to the table. If they do not want to come back to the table and talk to us, then the rest will follow, and it could be chaotic for the country.
Claude, just for those who may not know, so what exactly is the problem with government's current offer?
Yeah, well, currently, you might have heard the ministers go into parliament and also talking to media, referring to that public servants have received 7.5%. At some point, one minister in parliament said it's 27%. When the actual offer that they made and the actual amount that was paid to public servant was only 3% when they referred to 7.5%. So the 3% was paid last week Thursday, whereas they go and talk about and refer to the 7.5%, in which they are including what was offered last year, the cash gratuity of 1,000 rand. This is what has angered most of the public servants, because then that is a conflation of the facts and it was not accurate. So that's what we are struggling about. In the meantime, we are demanding not less than inflation increase. And we have started at 10% and said we could engage and see if we can take and give, compromise somehow, somewhere. But that can only happen if we have a dialogue.
Claude, let me come to you. So government seems very set. They seem stern and stagnant in terms of their current offer on the table. But, you know, where to from here for you guys as public sector unions? Because if government's not going to move, where will this ultimately lead us to?
Yeah, thank you, Sakina. I think what we need to understand is that the government has already implemented the offer, which is the 3% on the table. And if you ask any public servant, what have they got in their last pay packet, it was just simply 3%. But this has severe repercussions, because come next year and come for years to come, what will happen is that if there's a delay in salary negotiations, or if we do not, or we reach a stalemate with government can then simply implement the offer unilaterally. Now, this has dire consequences for collective bargaining. You ask yourself, do we still have to negotiate? Is union still relevant in the country? And I think this has dire consequences not only for the public sector, but for the country as a whole when it comes to negotiating and good faith. And I think government has been a little bit disingenuous by publicly announcing that they've given public servants 7.5%. This is entirely incorrect. As Simon indicated, the only increase that public servants got this year was 3%. And we did a study. The lowest paid worker in the public service right up to level 6 at the moment. If you take into account after tax and their pension contribution with the 3% increase, most of them received 130 Rand salary increase in November. This is apart from the back pay, which is from April. Yes, that's a once-off. But going forward, they will only see a difference of 130 Rand in the pay packet. Now, you tell me, how is one able to survive with the increase in petrol, basic commodities, food, electricity, and yet government blatantly goes out and tell everybody that public servants receive 7.5%. They are adding the cash gratuity that public servants got last year. Remember, we struck a deal. It was a severe compromise with government because public servants did not get an increase. We reluctantly agreed to that cash allowance so that public servants will not be out of pocket. They continue to get that cash allowance this year, or we simply ask government to say, if there's a delay in negotiations next year, if we do not reach an agreement, or if government offers a poor increase next year, keep the cash gratuity going so that public servants are not out of pocket. Unfortunately, government is not prepared to move on that. And that's why you see by the solidarity between the three federations and the associate unions, members were angry yesterday. And people thought that despite government implementing the salary offer unilaterally, nobody would take the streets. It was evident yesterday that public servants were very angry throughout the country, and the nationwide marches, you'll see the solidarity and support among public servants.
And absolutely, we do see that. But Ashley, besides publicly demonstrating your grievances, what other options are you considering?
Good morning, Sakina, and thank you, and the viewers. Sakina, I think from the union side, our affiliates has for a number of months been engaging government, with the view to find an amicable solution to this current problem. I think Comrade Claude and Simon has indicated the gist of the problem is that the increases that was unilaterally implemented to public servants is nowhere near the living line and for workers to afford. That caused all the anger and the frustration. So really the solution is, Sakina, and that is covered in our memorandum that we handed over yesterday to government, is that we're imploring government to table a revised offer to public servants within 7 days. Our doors are open as labor to engage, but engage meaningfully. Don't call us for a meeting just for the sake of public showing that you are carrying government, but you offer nothing on the table. So we're imploring government to really come back to the bargaining table and table an offer that we can take back to our members so that members can guide us in that. But currently, as it stands, the anger is going to continue, and we cannot guarantee there is going to be full-blown and full-scale industrial action come 2nd of December.
So what would that entail exactly, Simon? Because yesterday at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, for example, patients had to be turned away. They had to cancel the surgery schedule for the day. And, excuse me, obviously, you members of the public are totally disgruntled about that. So when I talk about, where to from here, it is with those sort of things in mind. When you say you're going to intensify, what can the public expect in that intensification?
Sakina, if my answer, I think what we've demonstrated as Labour that we have the interest of the public at heart. That's why you've seen yesterday a number of lunchtime protests outside workplaces, outside hospitals during lunchtimes. That itself, it's a manifestation that we as unions are responsible people. Intention is not to disrupt unnecessarily so that the broader public can suffer. So really that question we must put at the door of government and say, you must take this serious so that we can resolve this matter in the interest of the public and the interest of decent work and decent working conditions for public servants.
So given that you have already as unions you've accused government of negotiating in bad faith, Simon. Why do you think that there would be a change? As I said, government seems quite resolute in terms of what they have put on the table. As they say, it's a 7.5% increase. You've explained to us here this morning again what that actually entails and why it does not, in nominal terms, actually amount to 7.5% in that sense. But you know, the government seems to have said this is all we can afford. They have implemented this already unilaterally. They've already started calling you to come and negotiate for next year. So from where we are sitting as outsiders looking in, it doesn't seem as though they would budge. So what do you make of that position? And do you actually think that there would be movement in any way, shape or form?
Well, I think there is an artist who once sang a song saying, you can fool all the people sometimes, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. So what is happening is that the chickens are coming home to roost, in that their arrogance is not paying off. And if government, who is our employer, claims to be a caring government, they would care about the public services that is offered to everybody in the country. And they will then start, firstly, requesting us to come to dialogue with them, show us where they have difficulty, and compromise a little, while we will be expected as well to compromise. So we have we try and take and give and get closer to each other. They can never break an impasse by lies and propaganda and continue with their arrogance. If they want to see flames, they will just invite flames. But if they are serious with running government, if they are serious with making sure that they resolve issues that are here in the country, they will call us to a table where we will talk. What we are offering as a proposal and part of the demands is not only limited to the benefit of public sector, public servants themselves, but it is to the benefit of the public in general. If we are calling upon for the employment of the teachers who are unemployed, it will only improve the service delivery insofar as the teaching and learning is concerned in the schools. When we demand that they must employ nurses who are unemployed, we're only referring to the best interest of improving public sector services within the health sector, in the clinics and the hospitals. And equally, when we say we want them to employ more police and train more of them, we want to prevent this new phenomenon where a police station in Malamlele was robbed by gangsters or robbers who went to rob and take the guns because there was not enough police officers on duty at night. And the same thing happened in Ekuru Lane. That on its own, it demonstrates that we are calling upon for the best interest of the public in general. Now, if they say they are a caring government, they should at least have interest on what happens to the public service and the society in general. That's what we expect. If they do not respond and they don't respond positively, then we only have them to blame for whatever will happen.
So, Claude, with regard to what it is, that figure that you as a collective would be willing to accept, because Simon just referred to compromise. Are you in agreement about that figure, the percentage increase that you would be willing to accept? And what is it? What would be the lowest point at which you would be satisfied?
For us, the biggest hurdle was the cash gratuity, which is stopping at the end of 31st of March. It's a major concern for us. You must remember, when we started off, our demand was 10%. Then when government refused to move from 2% and then ultimately 3%, we revised our demand to 6.5%. Now, unfortunately, the 3% and the cash gratuity, the stopping of the cash gratuity comes as a package deal. Whether you agree on one and disagree on the other, unfortunately, it comes as a package deal. But I think what we need to consider is that if government comes, and if there's any improvement on the 3% itself, surely we'll take it back to our members and ask members to decide whether they'll be amenable to such an increase. But unfortunately, there's been no movement from government on either the stopping of the cash gratuity or alternatively an improvement on the 3%. I think if government comes to the table and negotiate on that, come to some sort of a better offer, if you want to put it in that terms, we can take it back to our members and let our members at the end of the day decide when anything between 3% and 6.5% or anything closer to 6.5%, we surely will take it back to our members, and at the end of the day, let the members decide what if the offer is on the table is suitable.
And Ashley, just from an official perspective, when next are you set to meet around the negotiating table?
Well, Sakina, our doors are open all the time for government to engage us as Labour in order to find a solution to the current impasse. Two messages for government: stop the austerity measures, return to the bargaining table before the 2nd of December with a meaningful offer that we can take back to members. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ashley. And of course, Claude and Simon, just very briefly, your parting sentiments as well.
Well, we are still appealing to government to come to the table and talk to us because they have the best interest of the country, or should have the best interest of the country at heart. But also we are calling upon our members to remain resolute, and the unity of all union affiliates as well as members of all unions to remain with high discipline, continue to picket where we are picketing during lunchtime today and going forward. So whenever we make a call, they should always come out in numbers like they did yesterday. We appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Claude?
Yeah, thank you, Sakina. These are very trying times. These are critical times as far as negotiations in the public sector is concerned, and for the country as a whole. And members have got to understand that the only weapon that's available to us is to embark on industrial action. At the end of the day, nobody wants to see our members out on the street because there are consequences for that. The no work, no pay principle applies. So at the end of the day, workers are ultimately losers on either side of the table. But we have to make the sacrifice in order to make government understand that public servants are like ordinary citizens there. They have basic needs, they have basic expenses to meet, and we should also treat them with the same respect and dignity like we treat other members of our country or citizens of our country.
Well, gentlemen, I thank you for that update. Simon Hlungwane is COSATU's public sector convener and also president of DENOSA. Claude Naika is the Public Servants Association spokesperson, and Ashley Benjamin from FEDUSA is the general secretary at that organization. So that's where we're going to leave it for now. This is the latest update on this development. And of course, as you heard there, expecting government to hopefully return to the negotiation table before the 2nd of December. But we'll see. We'll keep our eyes on this one.